What's going on YouTube? So when Mazda unveiled the CX-50, a lot of people were afraid that this CX-5 might have the same fate as the CX-3 and CX-9.
But the CX-5 remains Mazda's best-selling vehicle, and because of that, they're making pretty notable changes for 2024.
So what are those updates for 2024? Let's go ahead and find out. Now, like always, let's kick things off here under the hood for our spec dump. So you're gonna continue to find two different powertrain options for the CX-5. You have a base 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine with 187 horsepower. However, if you're power hungry, you're gonna want what we have. That is the turbocharged engine. We have a 2.5 liter turbo four-cylinder with 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque.
And new for 2024, you're gonna have the return of the Carbon Edition turbo trim level. So now you can get that cool exterior design with the turbo engine as well. All models have a 6-speed automatic transmission. All-wheel drive is standard equipment, and as far as fuel economy is concerned for the turbo model, it's 24 miles a gallon combined.
Now, of course, we're gonna show you the performance of this model on a road test later on in this review. We're gonna get things like our signature sound level reading because you're gonna wanna compare this to all the competition on carconfections.com. But first, let's go ahead and close up the hood and take a look at the very refined and elegant exterior on the CX-5. Now here at Car Confections, we do like to talk about trim levels. So before we dig into the exterior design, I do want to mention that Mazda has deleted or discontinued one trim level this year. That is the base S model. So that's no longer going to be available. But as Mason mentioned just a second ago, they added the Carbon Turbo Edition. So we still have 8 trim levels. Never fear, you have plenty of choices in the CX-5 lineup. Now, in terms of the exterior design, no big changes here this year. We're still gonna have a very nice, clean, sophisticated look. You've got that signature Mazda grille up here in the front. Since we have the turbo model, we've got the dark finishes here to the chrome as well as in the center section. And as we come over here to the headlights, very premium LED headlights are gonna be standard on all trim levels. Above the premium trim is going to be adaptive headlights, and as you can see, you've got those signature daytime running light and LED turn signal indicator. Now moving around to the rear design, you're gonna continue to see that same clean, classy look that a lot of you guys really like.
Yeah, I love the way this CX-5 looks, and it's been out for a while, but it still looks so premium. Now, Drew's hopping inside because we check out all the taillight elements here at Car Confections to see if they're all LED. And as you can see, we have an LED brake light, LED reverse light, and LED turn signal indicator. So all 3 elements are LED. These are very premium looking taillights, and that's gonna be included on the premium trim levels and above. We have an exposed rear wiper, and then dropping down to this lower area, this is gonna have a tiny bit of matte black plastic, but it definitely blends in here on this black model. We do have dual exposed exhaust outlets as well. They're large diameter because we have the turbo model, and as far as the tow rating, 2,000 pounds.
Now moving on to the wheels, all but the new base trim level, the preferred, will have 19-inch alloy wheels. Here with this model, as you can see, we've got the really nice looking gloss black finish. I think this looks excellent with the overall black paint on today's example, as well as the body color wheel arches. Now, speaking of paint, I do want to mention that we have a new paint color available for 2024. You can now get the Zircon sand color from the CX-50 here on the CX-5. Now, as we move back to the mirrors, you're going to have standard blind spot monitoring. Heating will come on some of your upper trim levels as well as power folding.
Now here at the side of the CX-5, it comes in at an overall length of 179.1 inches, and really you can kind of see that this is actually one of the smaller offerings in the segment when it comes to the overall length, which we'll talk about space in just a little bit when we get on the inside. But let's go ahead and talk about safety systems for the CX-5 because you're going to be very pleasantly surprised here. Mazda's including all 4 of your active safety features as standard equipment on the CX-5. Additionally, if you get this turbo premium trim level or the signature, that will additionally throw in rear auto braking as well as a traffic jam assistance. So yeah, even if your kid's reaching up from behind and smacking you behind the head, you should be safe out on the road. But guys, that wraps up the exterior design. But before, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's go ahead and move on to the interior. Of course, we'll first take a quick look at the key fob. Standard Mazda fare here. You got all your buttons on the side. You do have standard smart entry on board. So you just push this button here and that's going to unlock the door. And if equipped, the power mirrors will also fold out. Now, taking a look inside of the cabin, just like with the exterior, no major design changes on the inside, but there are some updates that we will get to in just a second. But first, let's talk about material and color options. Now that the base trim has been discontinued, you can no longer get cloth seats on the CX-5. That means you're going to start out with leatherette seats. You move up the trim structure. Most models are going to come with real leather, and you can even get Nappa leather on the top end signature. Here with our turbo model, we have real leather, of course, as you can see, finished with a nice stitching detail. It is going to be available in black. You can also get red on certain models and brown. Now down below, we have 8-way power adjusting seats with 2-way lumbar support. And we also have our two-person memory seating right there. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, one of the CX-5's strongest elements has always been the interior materials. That does continue for 2024. We have a very softly padded armrest here covered in a leather material. The leatherette is actually going to continue all through there and along the very top. As we move to the upper dash, this extreme upper portion will be a soft touch plastic. The lower panels, where you're more likely to touch, are again covered in a leatherette with a double stitching detail. We have a faux carbon fiber running through there, more soft materials down there, and more leatherette along the center console. Of course, everything as well feels really, really well built and super solid. Now to fire it up, we'll push the push button start located right there. Now I went ahead and transitioned into a first-person perspective so we can take a closer look at some of the details, including the technology on board with our gauge cluster. Now you're going to see some tech updates in just a second, but the gauge cluster is not actually impacted by those tech updates. You're still going to have the 7-inch reconfigurable display right there in the middle, so you can cycle through some different kinds of information in your speedo, and then your other 2 gauges there, of course, analog. As we move up, though, your upper trim levels will come with a head-up display that does also display your blind spot information. Every single CX-5 will have rain-sensing wipers and also a leather-wrapped steering wheel. This is the typical Mazda design. It's manual tilt and telescoping, and your upper trim levels will have steering wheel heating as well. Now, let's take a look at some interior storage, starting with our console. Now, you see the lone donut there. That's, of course, part of our donut test, and it indicates to you that we have fit 11 donuts inside of the center console. So we're obviously looking for a full dozen, because that's how you transport donuts, but we've fit 11. That's still pretty good for this segment. Now I'm going to actually pull these donuts out, though, because I've got something I need to show you in here. This is our 2 new USB-C ports for 2024 instead of the previous USB-A ports. Now, up in front of that, we've got our 2 cup holders. And in the very front here, we do have a nice wireless phone charging pad, and you also have a 12-volt outlet. Now, pulling back to the shifter, this is a traditional style. Just going to pull back for drive. Bump over here to the left if you want to shift manually. You do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel as well. When we go into reverse, you're going to see the standard backup camera. So even though this is a high-end example, you actually do need to get the fully loaded signature trim if you want the 360-degree camera system. Otherwise, you're going to get this regular backup camera, which actually has guidelines but not active trajectory. And then right behind that, you have your electronic parking brake with brake hold. Now off to the side of that, you have your console-mounted volume knob. There are 2 different sound systems, one with 6 speakers, and then if you choose the carbon model or above, that's going to get you the 10-speaker Bose Centerpoint surround sound system. Let's go ahead and give that a sample right now. Yeah, overall, this is a very nice sounding sound system. It certainly fills up the cabin well. All right, now moving on to our climate controls. Since the base model has been discontinued, we now have standard dual zone automatic climate control across the entire lineup. Very simple to control. We also have standard 3-stage heated seats across the entire lineup. But if you want seat ventilation, you're going to have to choose at least the Premium Plus trim level. All right, but let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about the tech updates. So the screen size itself is still going to be 10.25 inches. But what's important here is that for 2024, Mazda is adding touch screen abilities when you're using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So previously you had to fiddle around with this control knob. Now, when you're inside of this system, you'll be able to just kind of bounce around. As you can see, I'm using the touchscreen and it's working quite nicely overall. The other thing I want to point out is the fact that this is running wirelessly. So here's my phone. You can see that I am running the Android Automotive interface without a physical connection into the system. So those are nice tech improvements that are really going to help you enjoy this vehicle long term. Now, when you're in Mazda's interface, though, just be aware that it continues to not be a touchscreen and you'll have to use that knob. Now, moving above to our mirror, most models are going to come with an auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. This is going to be frameless, though, if you choose the signature trim level. And then up top, if you choose the preferred or above, that's going to get you this power sunroof. You continue to not be able to get the panoramic sunroof, though, like you can on the CX-50.
All right, so let's get in the back seats of the 2024 CX-5 and see what this is all about. Now, of course, there's no major changes back here this year. So as far as space is concerned, we're 39.6 inches of legroom, 39 inches of headroom. Pretty impressive headroom figures, although I will say if you're like a Shaquille O'Neal, I don't think you're going to fit back here legroom-wise in the CX-5 because it is smaller than quite a few of the rivals. Here's our knee measure test. We're sitting at only about 5 inches of knee space. I'm 5'9". This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", and that definitely is going to be less than a lot of the main competition like RAV4 and CR-V. My feet do have a ton of room up under here, though, so if you're having the big boots or whatever in the rear, you can certainly do that. Now, here in the center, we do have vents. That's a very nice premium feature. And we do also have a few more controls, but they're actually not going to be integrated down here. They're going to be integrated in our fold-down armrest. So inside of here, if we pop this open, you'll notice that we have a little felt line storage cubby. It does also have 2 USB ports in here, so that's very nice. And in addition to that, we have 3-stage heated rear seats, so we can toast dim cheeks in the CX-5, and that's actually on quite a few different trim levels, including this Turbo Premium, the Signature model, and the Premium Plus. 2 cup holders in there as well. And then let's turn to the door. One thing I want to point out about the door itself is that it opens at a pretty much 90-degree angle, which is certainly a nice thing for families who are loading in car seats. And the materials are going to be the same as the front, so really leatherette covers the vast majority of this door trim. And then down on the bottom, we do have bottle storage. Now walking up to the tailgate on the CX-5, we do have a power tailgate, standard on preferred trim levels and above. No hands-free function still on the CX-5, so if that's something that really matters to you, Mazda has not thrown that in just yet. Now, as far as the space is concerned, 31 cubic feet behind the second row seats. If we fold those seats down, we're looking at about 60 cubic feet of maximum cargo capacity. If you're curious as to how that compares to the main rivals, RAV4, CR-V, it's going to be quite a bit behind, about 15 cubic foot behind. So do keep that in mind. This is smaller dimensionally, and that is going to give you less cargo capacity and less rear seat space. Now, one of the really nice things about the CX-5, though, is that they include handles to fold the seats in the cargo area, which is not something that a lot in the segment do. Additionally, these are 40-20-40 split folding seats, so you can even fold that middle seat down individually, which really allows you to maximize the passenger space as well as haul different things cargo-wise. And here at Car Confections, of course, we like to give you all those measures. So we're measuring from the driver's seat to the rear of the cargo area, and we're sitting at 68 inches of length in the CX-5. And then as far as the width is concerned in the tailgate opening, we are sitting at 39 inches wide. So that's a decent amount. It is going to be a little bit shy of like an average US sized bicycle for an adult in terms of overall length, but you're going to be able to fit quite a bit of stuff in the CX-5. Don't worry about that. We do have a spare tire under the floor as well. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel in the 2024 Mazda CX-5, and in this test drive we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, as you can see on this screen right now, including getting our signature sound level reading. But before that, let's go ahead and see what this turbo is like accelerating. Very nice.
Oh yeah. Now, of course, we have driven the CX-5 with the turbo engine numerous times, but every time you're behind the wheel, it really impresses you because in this segment, it's really not common to have a powerful upgraded engine anymore. If there's a optional engine, it's usually going to be a hybrid system with just a little bit more power, but this has a lot more power. So to remind you guys what we said at the spec dump, this is a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque. Very large power numbers for this segment. And I think it really helps people when they're kind of comparing this to entry-level luxury crossovers, because that is kind of a power figure you might get from, say, something like a GLC that's just driving by right there. So pretty cool that they offer that.
Yeah, and if you don't choose a trim level with the turbo engine, you can get just a traditional 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated, 187 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque. Those are class competitive numbers in this segment of vehicle. So the base engine's nothing to just like say is trash or anything. It's actually a pretty good motor for the segment, but this certainly is going to be the choice for enthusiasts like ourselves. That's certainly a big benefit for us.
Absolutely, and to be clear that those power figures, those are on premium fuel. Mazda does give you a slightly lower power rating if you run it on regular fuel, but you can choose which one you want to do. Now, as far as other elements of the powertrain, we do have a 6-speed automatic transmission on board. You've heard us talk about this numerous times because Mazda really uses this transmission pretty much across their whole lineup, except for that brand new CX-90.
Yeah.
And it's a fine transmission. Yes, it does have less gears than 8 or 10-speed automatics in some of the competition, but it is nice and smooth. It's also plenty responsive. And importantly, compared to a lot of rivals, it's not a continuously variable transmission, which I know a lot of you guys don't really care for.
Yeah, that is for sure. Now, we finally opened up and we're out of the traffic, so let's go ahead and just talk about your ride quality in this CX-5. This, of course, is a family vehicle, even though this is like your sporty alternative family vehicle. And I will say the ride quality is very good. We've had this vehicle and sampled it out for an entire week, and we were very impressed. We actually took it on a road trip. It does a great job of just soaking up the bumps. I will say it's a little bit firmer than some of the competition. Something like a Honda CR-V will be a little bit more softly sprung than the CX-5, but I really don't think any person is going to find this problematic in any capacity. It's not like a rough riding vehicle at all. Very good power.
Yeah, the torque just feels excellent.
But now it's time. You guys are probably waiting for it. Our sound level reading. We'll put it on fan speed 1 and get it going 55 miles per hour. Official car confection sound level reading is sitting at 55.8 decibels for this 2024 Mazda CX-5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to carconfections.com, because on our website we have posted all of the sound level readings for all the vehicles we've tested, and in this segment, believe me, we've tested a lot of them. So 55.8 places it pretty much in the middle of the segment when it comes to sound level reading. It's a little bit louder than the 2023 model that we tested out, but that was a signature. So certainly very good sound level reading though, so do keep that in mind. It just feels like a very premium overall experience in here. It feels like a very cohesive, solid piece. We say that in all of our Mazda reviews really, but it's hard to describe. I mean, when you get in one of these vehicles, it just feels very solid, which some in the class do not.
It's kind of weird to describe it like this, but Germanic almost. It kind of reminds you of a German luxury vehicle in that overall solid feel. And another way that it kind of reminds you of a German vehicle is that it's very athletic. So as I kind of go around a corner there, it's a good demonstration of just the dynamic capability of the CX-5. It's a lot sportier than a lot in the segment. The biggest thing is that you have excellent steering. That is what you will for sure notice when you get behind the wheel of this. Really fast, responsive steering. It's actually quite heavy and it has just this nice, pleasant heft to it. Really like what Mazda does because they really put their DNA into every vehicle. Even if it's not a segment where it's supposed to be sporty per se, you still have that nice touch of sport. Now, as I stop here at this red light, I do want to mention that the turbo models do not have auto start stop, but the standard 2.5 liter engine does have auto start stop, and it has been adjusted for 2024. This adjustment has actually increased the efficiency overall of the model, which is a good segue into the fuel economy.
Yeah, so we're sitting at 24 miles a gallon combined with the turbo model. Not terrible fuel economy. Also, it is going to be a far cry from some of the hybrid offerings in this segment, as you would expect. As far as the base 2.5 liter model, that's going to be sitting at 28 miles a gallon combined. So that's certainly very good fuel economy. Now, I do also want to just go ahead and go into one of our other Car Confection signature elements, our airball and slam dunk. We're in Kentucky. It's not quite basketball season, but Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk?
Where to say the slam dunk is the 2024 technology improvements. You guys asked for it, and Mazda's finally delivered that most of the time you can touch the screen. When you're using Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which connect wirelessly, that's another big benefit. So you can overall just kind of get in your car, not really think about it, have that system pop up and start touching it and engaging the way you want to. So big improvement.
Big deal for me, that's for sure. And as far as the airball is concerned, we're going to have to say it's the space. I believe this has been the airball for quite some time at this point, but really the CX-5's largest issue is that the rear seat space is not as big and the cargo capacity is not as big as those main rivals like CR-V and RAV4. So if you need to haul a bunch of stuff around, this is probably not your choice. And the last thing to mention before we go into pricing will be the warranty. It's a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty and a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. And now let's talk pricing for the 2024 CX-5. Now, this year prices are going to rise about $1,000 on each respective trim level, and do keep in mind that base model is discontinued this year. So our base trim level is Select. That's going to start a little over $29,000. Now, let's talk about the pricing on this one. We have the Turbo Premium. Once we add in a few of the options as well as our destination charge, we're sitting at about $39,905 for this 2024 CX-5. Now, if I'm being a smart shopper, the next place I'm going to go to is carconfections.com/newcarquotes, because we have a tool that will connect you with local dealerships in your area to get you the best price, as well as access to invoice pricing. If you want to take advantage of that, a link is in the video description. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2024 Mazda CX-5. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, please help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help us get access to the newest vehicles on the market so we can show you all what changed and all of that. If you're already a part of our Car Confections family, thank you so much for your continued support. We would also appreciate a follow on TikTok and Instagram, as well as a visit to carconfections.com. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.